So does LeBron have too much power in the NBA?
In their jersey, like he's giving them so many things that they'd be like, check, yes, this guy was worth it. So what he wants him to bring in his son. So what his son's maybe not so good.
In the media, but I don't think Randle's all that. I don't think he's that good.
But you guys are only naming one guy. There's two guys in the trade.
There's what two about guys Dante? In the trade, but Dante, these guys.
He averaged 15 and a half points.
And Emmanuel, you said big three, and I would just like to ask, what year is this? My calendar says it's 2024. When was the last time the Golden State Warriors were labeled as Big Three? It's been quite.
Welcome to the Boomshakalaka Podcast. In this episode, Vince, Emmanuel, Justin, and Abby discuss the biggest offseason news in the NBA. You can listen to this on Spotify and YouTube Music, or watch us on YouTube. Now let's get into it.
NBA season is just around the corner, starting in a couple of days. So I guess, all right. So if we're going to start with the biggest offseason stories for the NBA, let's start with the Cat trade. Karl-Anthony Towns traded from Minnesota to New York. Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo going to Minnesota. I guess on this trade, like, what do you guys think? Does this make the Knicks now the biggest challenger to Boston in the East for the championship or to make the finals?
I think, like, for me, I think it does. Because we already saw what they did last year, right? We already saw how Jalen Brunson went crazy once Randle got injured and became a guy that I think he could become. Went to a level I didn't think he could be, right? OG, even though he's always hurt, when he's in there defensively, he's strong. You know, he shuts down the other team's best defender, or, you know, at least makes it a difficult night for them. So I think he plays a perfect role. He hits that corner three, so he stands over there in the corner, spaces the court. So I think that's good. Mikal Bridges, like, he's an unknown quantity that could really take him to really top level, right? Like, I think he's a good player. I think he's a talented player. I don't think he's a star player. So I think in Brooklyn, he was kind of
on this team. He doesn't need to be, right? It felt like Brooklyn. It felt like they were kind of pushing him to try to be that guy. Like, when you're traded for a superstar, I feel like that it's kind of, even if it's not said outwardly, like, people kind of assume, like, okay, we got Mikal Bridges in exchange for Kevin Durant, then this is the guy, right? And so it kind of felt like to me when I was watching Brooklyn, like, they're trying to make Bridges something that he's not. But now that he's on the Knicks, we know he's not better than Brunson. We know he's not better than Towns. So now he can kind of just get in where he fits and just do his thing, right? So I feel like Bridges now should actually be better now that there's less pressure on him being on the Knicks. Even though the Knicks are like the bigger team, you might think he'd have more pressure. But because of where he slots in with the guys that are on the Knicks now, I feel like it'll actually make him even a bigger weapon than maybe he was in Brooklyn.
I agree. It has to, just because if you look at it, you're talking about they're putting back together that Villanova roster, right? So you're going to have that trio. They all know how to play together. It's going to be a much better fit for Brunson. For Brunson, for Bridges.
Yeah.
As you said, no pressure. It'll be a better fit. But in regards to, does this put the Knicks over the top? You know, Cat is a better fit than Randle, simply because Randle was there pre-Brunson. So Randle's used to being the man, having the ball in his hands. He doesn't fit with that Villanova trio, right? Those guys play together. They move the ball. So they needed to get someone in there, a big that could, you know, pick and pop, a big that can play off the ball, a big that could stretch the floor and hit threes. And, Cat fits that mold, even though I personally do not like his game. I don't like his fake voices, but that's another issue, right? It is what it is. But
what don't you like about his game?
Because this is the thing. Like, he is talented, but he is a big 7-footer that takes way too many threes. You know, okay. I'm not saying that you have to be an old school Shaq, but you can mix it up a bit. It becomes a little predictable, and he is a bit soft. So I'm not a huge fan, but for what the Knicks need, it does make sense. The fit does make sense, but does it put them over the top, over, you know, a healthy Boston? I'm still going to say no.
That was my comment. I was going to ask you guys if you think is he tough enough to handle the New York crowd and the New York criticism? because he is described as a soft big who's just standing outside, whereas like Randle does take threes as well, but just the way Randle plays and the way he looks, he just seems like he's just a tougher guy. And then Cat, I don't know, the voices. Sometimes people think he's a little bit soft. And you know, when you're in Minnesota, I don't think we should underestimate. People don't care as much about. Okay, they have Ant, which you know maybe people care a bit more about Minnesota, but I feel like you can hide a little bit over in Minnesota, whereas like New York, the spotlight is on you, and I'm wondering how he can handle that.
He's from. A lot of people don't know that Towns is from New York.
Yeah, he's from New York, and he's getting a bad rap. Like, yes, he shoots maybe a little bit of three. Listen. He may shoot too many threes. Debatable in this NBA that we have now, but he's the best 3-point shooting big man in the league, right? Maybe in history. Isn't that what he told us? Like in the All-Star game, we saw him hitting 3-point shots. Like he hit threes at a clip that we hadn't seen any big man hit before, right? And the way the NBA's played now is Boston won the championship by shooting, I think it was like over 60% of their shots were from three. So it's only going to increase because the league is a copycat league. So I think bringing in Towns, a big man who's going to stand out there, and you have to respect his 3-point shooting ability. Like you're not going to respect it if he's not always going to take it. So Embiid, for example, Embiid pops out there, and yeah, he can hit some, he shoots some every now and then. But are you sprinting out to Embiid because he's at the 3-point? I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead, big man, shoot. I'll turn around and grab this rebound. Like, even though he can make them. But with Towns, you have to go out there and respect that. So I do think that he does add them an element that Embiid as a big now has to go out and go guard. Last year when they had Hartenstein, that's his name, he didn't have to really guard that guy. Embiid was just, let me score 50 on you here. Let me do what I got to do there. Now he has to guard. Like, he has to defend. Like, he has to guard Jokic. Jokic is the only other guy he has to guard usually. Now he has to go out there and guard this guy. So I think that could be the missing piece.
Any concerns about him disrupting what we saw from Brunson last year? Because Brunson he played like he was free. Like he knew he was the man. He knew he didn't have to worry about anyone else. Do you think that he might come in, Cat, and maybe affect the chemistry? And he dribbles too much.
He dribbles too much. Dribble. He's always got the ball dribbling. I don't know. But go ahead. I don't know. Go ahead. Finish.
Honestly, I agree with that. But I mean, like, I understand the question you're saying, like, can he come in and disrupt the flow? For me, I feel like I think it would be a good thing if he kind of disrupts it, because I feel like they were too ball dominant with Jalen Brunson last year. Yeah. And I feel like they need to do a better job of like spreading the wealth. And with Towns, now Bridges, who wasn't there last year, a full year of OG, I feel like maybe they'll do that because it was too much with Brunson. And I mean, they got eliminated in the second round last year, so it's not like they made it to the finals. They didn't make it to the conference finals. So
you think they won the championship? They got to the final or something,
right? The way that the media talks and focuses on the Knicks, like as if they did anything. They made it to the second round and then they lost. So I don't think they should be focused on making sure that things don't change or things stay the same. You got to the second round, big deal. Like it should change because you guys need to make it to the finals, right? Knicks haven't made the finals since what, 99? So.
That is true. With that being said, we got to be fair. You know, I'm not a Knicks fan by any means, but they were hurt. You know, OG was hurt, Randle was out, so they were a beat up team.
Everybody's hurt. Everybody's hurt in the playoffs. Come on, everybody's hurt in the playoffs. We're gonna make excuses for the Knicks now. That's what we're doing. Everybody gets hurt. Please, if you're out there and you're playing, that like maybe OG. I guess that last game, OG he started, but then he had to leave the game early, if I remember correctly. I think. Brunson ended up having to leave the game. But if you're out there and you're playing, then come on.
Yeah.
Everybody's hurt once you get to the playoffs. Everybody's hurt.
So can play.
You won't make excuses for the Knicks. So, all right, we talked about the Knicks angle. What about on the other side? So Minnesota last year, they made it to the conference finals. They lost to Dallas. Right now, they added Julius Randle. They add Dante DiVincenzo, the odd man out for the Villanova crew.
He's mad. He's happy with that trade.
And he doesn't seem. I mean, I see Dante. This could be a good opportunity for him because if he now has more of an opportunity to run the offense in Minnesota to play, I feel like he could actually show what he can do. When he was in Golden State, he was just getting minutes here and there. New York, he got a little bit more. But in Minnesota, if he can actually find his groove here, it could actually work out to be a good thing.
He's coming off the bench still? He's still coming off the bench, I think.
Minnesota?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, he is,
behind who?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I saw a thing that had him listed as 6th man, right? So I don't even know who their roster is over there. Is it Conley, so their point guard? Ant-Man, Randle, that's 3.
I forgot about Conley.
Who else is out? Who else is on their team? Like, what's his name?
Gobert.
Gobert, yeah. Gobert. So that's one, right? And then the big man that shoots Naz Reid, he's there. Is he starting this time? I don't know. He's gonna be fighting to start. I don't think he's guaranteed starting over there.
So, all right. So let's say he doesn't. Let's say he's still coming off the bench. Would this roster of Minnesota had a better chance against Dallas last year? If this roster beat Dallas? Does this roster make the finals last year? Do they have a better chance this year, in your opinion?
Potentially. Like overall, I'm definitely giving this trade an A+ on Minnesota's end because we saw what Naz Reid did last year. And with Cat moving over there, he should be able to take a step further. He should be able to get more minutes. He should be able to potentially start. You're getting back a 20+ point scorer in Randle, so you're not really worrying offensively. And then you're just bolstering your bench by getting DiVincenzo. And then another important factor, which we're not even talking about, is in that trade, you got Detroit's pick. Detroit's going to be terrible. So in June, you potentially have Cooper Flag. Like they are setting themselves up for years potentially. So even this year, it's not going to make the team any worse. At worst, they're the exact same. That's at worst. I don't see this team being any worse than they were last year with the trade. So overall, great trade.
What did the series go to last year with Minnesota? It was Minnesota and Dallas, right? So what did it end in? What did Dallas beat them in?
I think they beat them in.
Do we have that?
It went 7.
It went 7 games.
Yeah, it went 7. I think it went 7 games, but then.
Wait, can you confirm that? You have that on there somewhere? You can confirm it?
I'll look it up.
Okay, so if it is 7 games it went to, then I'm going to say no. This is not going to increase anything, and this is not going to make them a better team. One, because I am not a huge fan of Julius Randle. I know, like, before we were talking about Cat, and you guys were saying, he's soft, he's this, blah, 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 he sings or something. Like, Julius Randle, to me, is, like, he's very ball dominant. Right? And dribble, back you down. Like, I feel like he's high usage, high volume, and that's why him and Jalen Brunson, I think, might not have worked because they're similar type players. Now he's going on to Minnesota. He's undersized. Like, you're in the West. Like, I just don't think he improves them in terms of teams they need to be better than. Right? I don't think he makes them better than, let's say, Phoenix. Right, because you don't have. I was way off, by the
way. It only went 5 games. I was way off.
It went 5 games?
Yeah.
Okay, it went 5 games. Okay. But still, I don't think he gets them to 7 games. I don't think he wins them into 2 more. I don't think he makes them better than Phoenix.
I agree. Personally, I feel like Randle's overrated. I think he's overrated. I think the only reason Randle was getting all the talks he was getting is because he was in New York. Prior to that, he was on the Lakers. So I feel like when you play for those teams, you get boosted. Your profile gets boosted in the media. But I don't think Randle's all that. I don't think he's that good.
But you guys are only naming one guy. There's 2 guys in the trade.
There's 2 guys in the trade, but Dante, these guys.
He averaged 15.5 points. If you're bringing in 15 points plus the 20 from Randle.
He's a minor piece.
So, okay, but you talk about, so you mentioned the 20 points, and Justin mentioned the 20 points from Randle. But Randle he's not efficient. So even though he was a 20 points per game scorer, if you are bringing worse efficiency, now that's extra possessions, that's extra shots.
What was Randle asked to do in New York? And what was Randle asked to do in New York? And is he going to be asked to do the same thing? Because I kind of think about New York. It makes me think of RJ Barrett, when he got traded to the Raptors, and all the Knicks fans were like, "Oh, good luck, you're getting an inefficient guy." But they were asking RJ to play a certain way that didn't work with his style of play, like stand in the corner and shoot threes. He came to the Raptors, and suddenly you didn't notice that inefficiency because his style was different. And I wonder if Randle going to Minnesota, where Ant-Man is definitely the man, maybe it'll be easier for him to get better looks because they won't be. Is he going to
stand outside and shoot threes? Is he going to stand outside and shoot threes while Ant-Man has the ball and does what he needs to do? Because you know what I mean?
Don't think is he good enough three-point?
No, he's not. That's not his thing. And I just feel like the way he has to post up and get the ball where Cat could post up, but a lot of times he didn't. So he's able to spread the court. You put him out the three-point line. You got to defend him. Now you got Gobert, who you never give the ball to, right? So basically you want him to screen and then get out of the way or go to the rim for a lob. So Edwards has so much room now to operate and go on top of your head, right? But now you're going to have Julius Randle in there clogging things up and bogging things down. And
but you're talking like Minnesota did. They lost in 5. It's not like, can you get any worse, basically?
They beat Denver convincingly. And how did they beat Denver? Because they had the two bigs that could deal with that monster Jokic. Randle and Jokic is just going to, slap him up, right? So I just don't think he makes them. Does he make them that much worse? No. Does he make them any better? I'm going to say no. Right? Where I think when New York, they got better.
Yeah. So New York definitely got better. Minnesota, I mean, I guess it depends on Dante, right? To Abby's point. Like if Dante, you say he was averaging 15. If Dante can average 15 or better
for the season or in the playoffs. For the season he did 15? Or was that the playoffs?
I don't know. Those are Abby's numbers. So I'm going to assume
for the season, 81 games, 15.5 points, 40% from 3. I mean, if he's a sixth man, if he's coming off the bench, it's good numbers.
That's pretty good. That is pretty good. I didn't know he was that high at 15 for the season.
Right. So basically what all I was trying to say is that if Dante can continue what he was doing in New York, if he could do that for Minnesota, even though Randle to me is a step down from Towns, I guess the combination of the two could make Minnesota better.
And that's what Abby was saying, right? You can't just look at one guy. There was 2 key pieces in the trade, right? So together, combined, it on paper at least, they can't do any worse on paper. And once again, the future that I'm talking about with getting Detroit's pick, you're looking at the next 2 or 3 seasons.
To me, that's the best part. That's the best point, I think, actually. The fact that they have Detroit's pick, because I think nobody's really even talking about that.
Wait, why are you assuming
Detroit? Well, why are you assuming Detroit's going to be bad? If Cade's healthy, they got Tobias, they got Tim Hardaway Jr., they got shooters.
Tim Hardaway Jr. Tobias Harris.
They got Tobias Harris. Cade Cunningham is good.
Harris. Come on.
If you're
really going down the rabbit hole, those guys. That's a
So wait, hold on. So they have Detroit's pick through the trade. What, the Knicks had Detroit's pick?
Yes.
Oh, and they sent it over in this move.
Yeah, they gave up a lot to get Cat. I mean, I thought they gave up too much. I thought you either have to find a way to keep that pick or find a way to keep DiVincenzo. Still a great trade, but I got to give that trade a B just because that I felt like they gave up a little too much to get Cat.
So you're saying Minnesota won the trade, in your opinion?
Overall, absolutely.
Wow.
But
okay, we had a good talk on this topic, but I wanted to, since we're talking about offseason storylines, we brought up Dallas beating Minnesota last year. Dallas made a splash this year, if you want to call it that. They added Klay Thompson. So basically the end of the Splash Brothers era, that's over. Like, what do we think about that? Does that move now keep Dallas? So obviously Dallas made the finals last year. Now that they added Klay, are you guys looking at Dallas as one of those teams that should be challenging OKC, should be making it back to the finals? Is Klay still that guy? You know what I mean? Or is he washed up at this point?
Klay is definitely not that guy. I don't need to look at the stats to prove it. The eye test will do enough. Klay is definitely not that guy. But with that being said, I think you have to put Klay, he's at the point in his career now, due to some unfortunate injuries, where you have to put him in that position for him to be successful. I think that he needs to be able to come off the bench with Dallas. If he comes off the bench with Dallas And then when you put him in, you either have Luka or Kyrie in the game, because as you know, Klay's a catch and shoot player. He does need to have someone get attention off him to get those open looks. If you allow Klay to do that, then yes, I could see Dallas being more successful. Why? Klay's going to go against the second unit. Defensively, Klay doesn't have it anymore. It's if you don't have to go against the top guys, it's going to make his game, a lot easier defensively, which will be able to get him better looks offensively. He's going to have his legs under him. But if they try to start Klay, I don't really see this going well. They might as well have kept Tim Hardaway Jr., Abby's favorite player on Detroit.
My favorite player. I was trying to look up their stats to see if it was a difference. They didn't have that much. It's not that big of a difference between Klay and Tim Hardaway Jr. And Dallas
that says a lot.
Finished. Yeah, that says Klay's finished.
Anyone else? So it's kind of a wash deal between the two.
This slander with off the bench, Justin?
Off the bench.
He's gonna leave Golden State to go to Dallas and come off the bench there too? No.
Well, how much are they paying him? Do we know how much he's making? I don't remember how much they paid him, but I feel like
it's this issue. She'll find that for us. But I feel like he left Golden State because he felt disrespected. They disrespected him in Golden State. Having him come off the bench behind Pachinski or whatever, come on, man. I just felt like Klay had done enough for the organization that he still could have been effective. But once you kill somebody's confidence, who's done so much for you, it's hard to get it back. And you can see he's the type of guy that with his comments in the media and public and stuff like that you can see that stuff got to him. And I don't think they handled that correctly. He didn't go to the Lakers. I personally thought the Lakers would have been the best for him. Play with AD, play with LeBron. You still got D'Lo there. I thought that was a perfect fit for him. They need what he does. And the passing of LeBron, all that, whatever. But apparently the Lakers didn't offer him or guarantee him a starting position. And Dallas did. Dallas is you are going to start for us. So that's why he chose Dallas over the Lakers. So starting to him, it's very important because it's a respect thing at this stage in his career. It's very important. So I can't see a scenario where he starts off the bench. Maybe through the season, whatever, things don't go well, maybe they make a move. But signing him, I think they're thinking he's the third piece. Now we got a big three. That's what I think they're thinking. He's not coming off the bench. No way.
Well, so I need to push back a little bit because you said Golden State disrespected him or they did him wrong. And did they really? Because when we look at the production wasn't there anymore, right? He wasn't the same guy. We know that professional sports, NBA, it's a results business, right? What can you do for me? Right, it's not about what your name is and whatever. And even if we look at the contract, the biggest thing too is that Golden State actually offered him more money and he turned it down. Right, he left. I don't know the specific number. Right, he felt disrespected. But so how are you disrespected if they're offering you more money? You go and you take less somewhere else. How did they disrespect you?
But you said Emmanuel said he wasn't starting though, right? Maybe what he valued more was being able to start.
But if you're not hitting shots, can you blame the coach? Can you blame them for not starting you if you're not making shots?
Absolutely not. And Emmanuel, you said big three, and I would just like to ask, what year is this? My calendar says it's 2024. When was the last time the Golden State Warriors were labeled as big three? It's been quite a few years, right? And Klay is a part of that.
I agree.
Draymond has fell off, obviously. And we know Klay has fell off due to those injuries. So how does all of a sudden this guy who is no longer part of a big three all of a sudden go to Dallas and it becomes a big three?
What I'm saying to you,
big 2.5, like Shaq used to call the Heat.
Listen, I'm telling you what Dallas is saying. From Dallas's perspective, they're putting together a big three.
But
we can sit here and laugh at that and think that's funny. But from their perspective, bringing in Klay Thompson, they're going to push it and sell it as he's the missing piece. We got Kyrie dancing, doing what he does. We got Luka, who may be the best player in the league, may be the best player in the world. But then you got Klay Thompson, who, if you feed life into him and say, we believe in you, not you're going to be behind some rookie. Like you didn't help us win championships, right? Like you didn't make multiple All-Star games. Like you weren't part of the most significant part of our franchise's history. And we're going to put you behind like a rookie. Like we already know that Steve Kerr is disrespectful. Look what he did to Tatum. You know what I mean? Like benching Tatum for Derek White. Like everybody else could play, but Jason Tatum can't play. Like Jason Tatum couldn't do what Derek White was doing. Even Derek White was shocked. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense to me. So I know Steve Kerr, like he does these things. Like you don't bench Draymond, cussing in people's faces, punching out teammates. But Draymond could do whatever the hell he wants to do. But the quiet guys like Jason Tatum, the nice guys like Klay Thompson, yeah, I'll just punk him off. I just think he's the type of guy that he just like tries to like go to the quiet ones, the ones who ain't saying anything. Yeah, I'll disrespect them. Because the decision not to play Tatum was wrong. And I think not playing Klay Thompson, where did they go? Where did the team go? Did the team go anywhere in the playoffs? They didn't do anything. Right? Meanwhile, you got one of your all-time players like upset, leaves, goes to Dallas. Like I feel like him in Dallas, I think he's gonna be good because Luka is an amazing passer, as we all know. I ain't saying anything he doesn't know, right? And he attracts so much attention. And then you got Kyrie. And I think if you feed life into Klay and you say, we believe in you, you're that guy, you're that shooter, we wanted you here, I think he's going to have a good season. Is he going to be an all-star? I'm not saying all that, but I think he's going to be good for them. I think he is. And I think Golden State is going to regret it.
It's the next offseason story. Philly got better, in my opinion. They added Paul George, took him from the Clippers. And then I guess so we could combine these two offseason stories together. And then the Clippers losing Paul George, but now they've also lost Kawhi, right? So maybe I guess it's not a surprise to most. But Kawhi is out indefinitely. We don't know when he's going to return. Issues with his knee. I guess what are we thinking? So for Philly, are we thinking that they're actually a better challenger to Boston if they're healthy than the Knicks are? And then in terms of on the Clippers side, is this just another example of the Clippers curse?
The whole trade is much ado about nothing. Philly essentially turned themselves into Clippers. You take Paul George, someone who's historically always been hurt, and you combine him with Embiid, another player that's always been hurt when it counts. What do you get? The Clippers 2.0, the Eastern version of the Clippers. And on the Clippers side, they've just proven that they're the most inept franchise in history. Not only did you re-sign Kawhi, who's now that it's come out that he has a degenerative knee issue. He's 33 years old. The reality is retirement's on the way. Lonzo has a lot of serious knee issues, but at least he's only 27, so he's able to make a comeback. For Kawhi, unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen. So you have to think also, the Clippers also have a pick swap as well with OKC. Let's see. Kawhi's out. We don't know when he's coming back, and you lost Paul George. So now you're thinking, you know what? You're probably going to be in the lottery. So you're going to get that pick swap, and you're sending it over to OKC. So the whole thing's a disaster out in LA. And on paper, if Philly is healthy, then absolutely they could contend. They can go to the finals. But you proved to me that those two guys can be healthy the full season, and I'm just not buying it.
I mean, you make some fair points. I can't. You make some fair points. Paul George is always hurt. Paul George, he got hurt last week.
That's right.
He got hurt last week, preseason game. Every outlet showing the picture of his knee hyperextended. Like it doesn't look good, man. It doesn't look good.
Didn't look good. So, but was he hurt last year? Didn't he play in the playoffs last year?
I think last year, for the most part, I think he was good last year.
He was there. It was Kawhi that wasn't there.
Yeah,
and I think it was him by himself. I think, right? Him and Russ out there. I think by themselves. Yeah,
they had Harden though, right? Or did Harden come this? Yeah. They had Harden.
Oh, they had Harden.
Yeah.
But Paul George had a very good year last year, and he played very, very well. And he was healthy last year. And by his standards, he was healthy. And him playing with Embiid, I was going to flip it and say, is he the best teammate Embiid has ever had? Like, is he the best player Embiid ever played? Or was it the version of Harden that he had?
It could be Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, I was gonna say or Maxey. Because are you talking Paul George in his peak or Paul George now? Is this the best of what
Paul George last year? Paul George last year, pull up his stats. Paul George last year was a bucket, and he had a very good season, hit like big shots, and he was that prototypical 6'7", 6'8" wing player, silky smooth, that if you combined him with a big man like Embiid, like, and you got Maxey, I just thought like that could be a deadly combo. Right, so that's the Paul George I'm talking about. Just last year, Paul George was nice. It's not like it's been a couple years ago.
And he did play a lot. He was healthy. He only missed 8 games. He played 74. He averaged 23 points, 41% on 3, 47% 2s. I mean, yeah, if Philly gets that,
Paul George,
and even if Embiid, because Embiid is injury prone, but then you can argue. Because I had Embiid on fantasy, so I know that he missed a lot of games last
yeah.
But
my condolences.
But Maxey would step up in those moments, and Tobias Harris, because I had Tobias Harris as well on my fantasy, and so but maybe now because we could definitely say Paul George is better than Harris, and so if Embiid is hurt or if they do load management with him, you could argue that Philly at least now has Paul George and Maxey. They're better than they were last year.
I agree.
Let's talk about some facts here. We're going to Paul George was completely healthy. Do you realize that Paul George and Kawhi are almost identical? Abby is right. He did play in 74 games this year, right? But Kawhi also played in over 70 games as well. For PG, that was the first time in 5 seasons that he's played more than 70 games. Right? And Kawhi, I believe the stats are very much similar. It was the first time in about 5 years that he's played 70 games. So historically, you're looking at the same sides of the coin. 2 injured players. I could only go by history. It's something
last year was a mirage.
It was a mirage. It was an anomaly.
It was an anomaly. It was an anomaly. Yeah.
You're saying last year was an anomaly, and this year he's going to revert back to his usual self of being injured.
It already started. It
already started. It doesn't look good. I will say that.
It's not a good start.
I came home and I was just watching the TV and I don't know where I saw it, and they were just talking about, when Paul George gets back, he's out. Like what like what happened, And then I saw the clip, I was like, that didn't look good. He does have an injury history. I'm just saying, like, that last year's Paul George, and it was just last year because it wasn't 5 years ago. If you get that guy, they are a problem. But I do contend that, yes, his injury history is definitely something to be concerned about, for sure.
Yeah. I would just push back.
Sorry, go ahead.
The only thing I'd push back on what Justin said is that where he said that it was much ado about nothing. I wouldn't go that far. I'd say, like, okay, the injury issues are valid with Paul George and Embiid, and now you're combining the two. I agree with that. But I feel like what Emmanuel just said, based on what we saw from Paul George last year, and the fact that you're not needing with Maxey, you're not needing, Indiana Paul George. You're not needing prime Paul George, in my opinion, with this team, with how good Maxey is. So I feel like Paul George can give them enough to where Philly is going to be a serious threat in the East, at least, I don't know, to me. Even if Embiid is down, to Abby's point, if you got Paul George and Maxey now leading your squad as opposed to Maxey and Tobias Harris, then I feel like it's a net positive. Either way, it's a win-win if you're Philly. That's obviously he has to be out there and he has to be playing. That's a huge caveat to this. We'll see how long he's out for. I don't know what the prognosis is on his knee, but if he's able to play, I feel like I'm looking for big things from Philly personally. And then the Clippers, you were going to say something. I don't know what you were going to say, but I was going to just bring up the Clippers. The fact that Justin was saying that they're the most inept franchise. So I have to agree with that. Obviously, at this point, I mean, I feel like it's undeniable when you just look at how many failures they've had, and when you look at how bad, like in 2019, them getting Kawhi and then trading for Paul George, it seemed like, okay, this team they're going to win a championship at least out of the next like 4 years, 5 years. I don't think you would have found the NBA fans who would say, all right, they won't at least get one. right? Based on what we just saw from Kawhi when he was in Toronto, you take that, you send him to the Clippers with Paul George, and based on how good the Clippers were the year before, they just had a bunch of guys who were just playing hard, and they were able to make the playoffs, right? So if you add those two guys, I feel like you would think, okay, at least in the next 3-4 years, maybe they'll get at least one ring. But they didn't even come close. They didn't even come close. And now at this point, you've lost Paul George. Kawhi is out yet again. I mean, and now you're relying on you don't have Westbrook anymore, but it doesn't matter. He's finished. You're relying on James Harden, who's not the same Harden anymore. And then when you look at what they traded for Shea,
yeah,
that Shea trade has come back to bite them, right?
And their future is going to suffer because of it. Because I also mentioned you have a 2025 pick swap. 2026 is unprotected, so an unprotected first round pick. I'm not done yet. 2027 is a pick swap. So do the math. That's why OKC is plus 300, because they have their future planned out. Oh, not to mention OKC also has Houston's pick as well. I think that's like top 10 protected. So if they get 11th, that's another potential pick. They could, I mean, you have a way Sam Presti runs a franchise, and you have whatever Ballmer is doing out there in LA. So it is what it is.
Is it Ballmer or is it Lawrence Frank? Little Lawrence Frank over there running things. You're not wrong, but like you're all right. And the Clippers, I have no love for the Clippers. They stole Kawhi away. Like, I just feel like as a Raptor fan, I will never be supportive of the Clippers. So I don't, they get what they deserve, in my opinion. They try to skip the line, right? There's processes and the way you're supposed to do things. You talk about the way Sam Presti does things, even Masai with that, risky trade, right? But these guys are just, we're LA. We got our owners, this billionaire. We're just going to throw money at people and do all these moves. So we're going to pay Kawhi, get Kawhi come in, let Kawhi basically let us throw away our future, all for Paul George to come in, right? And then Kawhi, since he's been there, like the first year, I think, which was the bubble, I believe, and they got knocked out by Denver. I think that was their best chance because both of them were healthy and were playing then. And they got knocked out by Denver, who knew Denver was going to become such a juggernaut that they became. And after that, it's been injury after injury after injury after injury. And you have to wonder now, Kawhi being 33, multiple surgeries, you have to wonder, was his stint, his 1 year in Toronto, the peak of his career? Was that his apex of his career?
I think it's undeniable.
It's undeniable. I think it was. Like, he left for greener pastures, and it's only been downhill since then, right? Like, so if he had stayed in Toronto, even that 1 year, because that 1 year, like I said, the year right after was the bubble, and he was healthy, and they fairly healthy in the playoffs, at least that time, and they lost to Denver. But if he was on Toronto, he would have been healthy because he was healthy. And we lost to Boston last second shot or whatever. It was a close game. Not last second. I went to game 7 and we lost to Boston. If we had Kawhi, like, he's a back-to-back champion.
And we did good that year. Didn't we finish second? And it was like a shock because everyone thought we were going to do bad. And then we ended up finishing.
We were going to do bad.
Yeah.
And Siakam kind of shocked everyone because Siakam was still sort of like that role player next to Kawhi. And then that's what got Siakam basically the big contract, because he came and he sort of took over. And we still had Lowry. Sorry?
Yeah, the people who were shocked were the people who didn't actually watch the Raptors. The people who thought the Raptors were just Kawhi. Yeah. And they didn't realize. So, like, when you were talking about the Clippers trying to cut the line and cut the process, the Raptors didn't do that. So the Raptors, they built that squad from whenever Masai came in like 2011. That roster has been built brick by brick, right? They built that foundation to the point where all they needed was that main guy, because we knew DeRozan couldn't do it, right? DeRozan, no matter how many interviews he wants to do, telling people, oh, yeah, LeBron was gone, so therefore we would have won with me. No, we wouldn't have. Stop. No, we wouldn't have won with you. Just stop. We had how many opportunities with you? You couldn't get it done. You're not Kawhi. You never will be Kawhi. And there's no offense, because a lot of guys aren't Kawhi, right? Like, that Kawhi that we saw in 2019, one of the greatest players of all time. NBA history. One of the greatest players we've ever seen. And Masai built that team so perfectly that he just made that trade, put Kawhi in there, and then obviously midway through, trade out Valanciunas, bring in Gasol, and just bolster them even more. That team, roster, immaculate, right? So if Kawhi comes back that next year for that bubble season, without him, we were the second seed. I think we won like 54 games. We took Boston to game 7, and Pascal was playing like crap, right? Yeah. Pascal, our best player, was playing like crap. So now imagine we would have beat Boston and Pascal was playing up to his standards, right? 100%. Now imagine you put Kawhi in there. You put prime Kawhi in there with that team. Are you kidding? We would have went back-to-back. We would have played the Lakers in the finals. We would have beat the Lakers. Yep. Because when LeBron first got to the Lakers, I don't know if you guys remember this, he kept losing to the Raptors. When our team, when we were still good, and he first got to the Lakers, he didn't beat us for like a couple years. So I maintain we would have went back-to-back if Kawhi stayed because that roster was just
right. That's right. So yeah, long story short, the Clippers, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel anything for the Clippers. And and Kawhi, you made a bad choice, bro. That's it.
Right. One of the biggest what ifs, I think, in NBA history. Like if this guy would have stayed.
Yeah. Anyways. He wants to go home. Like, give me a break.
Deserved. But anyways, let's talk about the real team in LA. Lakers, right? It's been long enough. Biggest story of the offseason. We got LeBron engineering his son to get drafted by his franchise. We got LeBron telling the Warriors, don't draft my kid because we want him.
Has that been confirmed? Has that been confirmed?
I don't know. I think I saw Shams report that, like, Golden State had interest in Bronny, but they decided not to out of respect for LeBron's wishes.
That is legit. The Shams report is.
And then you got his friend who he was doing a podcast with, JJ Redick, is now his coach. So does LeBron have too much power in the NBA to now he can get his team to draft his kid when he averaged 3 points a game, where he could get his friend to become the coach? He could get franchises like the Warriors to back off on drafting his kid.
It was 4.8 points.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Not 3 points. 4 points.
Well, let's be real, first of all. The only reason why any other NBA team would draft Bronny is simply just to have LeBron come and play. Everyone knows that. That's why LeBron put that statement out. Now, I also think people are being a little too – I've never heard in history of a 55th pick being expected to do some great things, but everyone expects Bronny to do something great.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah, and I will say this. Yes, did he engineer Bronny to be picked? Absolutely. But is Bronny an NBA player? The answer to that is absolutely. This is why. Bronny was an All-American. He played great in the All-American game against a competition of his peers, scored 15 points, was an amazing player. You obviously go to USC. You're a freshman. You're coming off the bench. You're not going to get any minutes. The reality is Bronny's more of a 4-year player, right? And USC, he did show that he does have an IQ, that he does have a great defensive presence, but was he ready to be drafted with his stats? Obviously not. But we're not talking about a guy that's, like Zaire Wade, right? Zaire Wade didn't even play in college, right? Wade's son didn't even play college ball. That's a completely different case. Bronny could actually play. He's just wasn't exactly ready to be drafted. With that being said, with Bron's tutelage, I think eventually he'll find his way. He scored 17 the other night, had a great game, so he'll find his way. Does Bron have too much power? You're the best player in the game, probably the best of all time. It's okay to have power. You've clearly made right decisions. You've won championships. You know what? I would listen to that guy that's won championships. JJ Redick wants to be the coach, and he's my friend. Then why wouldn't I do that? He's earned that.
100%. I agree with that. I feel like what is power if you can't wield it? What is might if you can't use it? Like he's earned equity. It's like having a property and you live in there and it builds up in equity. You got all this money. What's it sitting there if you can't tap into it? Equity is only good if you tap into it. If you don't tap into your equity, then what is it? It's nothing. Right? He's tapping into his equity, especially his equity with the Lakers. Forget the league, that team. And the Lakers are already a big name franchise and well filled that, but he brought them even more money, more prestige, all that stuff to have the one or two, depending on what you want to say, best player of all time play for their franchise. He brought them a championship. He's brought them Anthony Davis, right? Like he became the all-time leading scorer in their jersey. Like he's given them so many things that they'd be like, check, yeah, yes, this guy was worth it. So what he wants him to bring in his son. So what his son's maybe not so good. Like what's like it's his son. Like it's the 55th pick. It's not the 5th pick. Right? Like it's a pick where it's like, who even knows who the 55th pick is? You can choose whoever you want to choose. Like, what does it matter? Usually those guys don't even make the league. So what does it matter if they want to take a flyer on a guy that is the son of possibly the best player of all time? Like, and another thing to consider, what value does it add to the Lakers for LeBron to feel good mentally, feel positive, feel happy, feel good family love? His son's on, his wife feels happy. Like, what does that add in terms of how well he plays and all that other stuff that he may give by putting his son on the team? So to me, for the Lakers, it's a risk and reward. Like, what's the risk, really? He's not good. I think from the LeBron standpoint, yeah, of course. Like he can do whatever he wants. Even from the Lakers standpoint, it's a business. If this is their employee, and they want to make their employee feel happy, it's fully their right to listen to whatever he's saying. But I think from other players' perspective, you made a point about how most of these late draft picks don't even end up in the league. I know a lot of people were complaining about the fact that Bronny got that 3-year deal right away before he had even like stepped foot on the court. And so I think some people, at least from a player perspective, is like there are other players who don't get 3 years, like especially players drafted that late don't get like 3 years off the bat to prove themselves. They have 2 weeks in preseason or 2 months of preseason to prove themselves, or they're getting sent to the Raptors 905, or they're not getting a contract. Whereas Bronny is basically, we're going to give you 3 years to try and get better. And so for other players, they're going to be like, what the hell? How come why is he getting this? Why is he getting these perks? Like
your dad is not LeBron
James.
Your dad is not LeBron.
You're not LeBron James. Your name isn't Bronny James. Like you don't get the same latitude. You don't get the same benefits. Like life isn't fair. Like there are like CEOs and GMs and presidents of companies and stuff who are only there because their dad owned the place or whatever, and he put them in place. Legacy, right? LeBron's doing the same thing for his son. That is the 55th pick. Like, I mean, he's the second last pick in the draft. Like,
and it reminds me exactly of what Lonzo Ball said 2 days ago on a podcast. He said, he was asked, okay, do you believe that the best players in the NBA? He said, out of the 450 players, no, I believe there's players that could play in the league. There's players in the G League. There's players overseas. I'm sure he was secretly referring to his brother, Jello, but whatever, that's another story. But What he's saying is that are there people that could play? He said, absolutely. But he goes, there's another business side of it. There's a politics side. There's only so many roster spots. Are you the right fit? You have the right personality. So there's all these things that go into it. So I mean, it's not just about your game itself. It's about how you play the game, behind the scenes. And I'm sorry, if I'm the best player in the world's son, that's how I'm playing the game. You're going to sign me, right? I mean, who cares? You could go and pick up, whoever else, Mac McClung or whoever you want to pick up. Are they really going to change the team that much? No. So what does it really matter when it, in that case? So once again, it's not like Bronny cannot play at all. I think the ones who say that he can't play at all, I will put my life on it. They never watched a second of him play. Never watched a second of his game. Never watched him through high school, through college. Never watched a second of his game.
To me,
Vincent, before you go, I'm going to say that I feel like this question is rooted in some haterations. I feel like there's something beyond this question that's beyond basketball.
So, okay. So what I was going to say before you said that, I'm going to get to that. But what I was going to say first is I think the best point that you guys made regarding Bronny is that he was drafted 55th. Like, nobody remembers who was drafted 55th. Nobody. Even if you ask people to say who was the 10th pick in the draft last year, most people wouldn't be able to tell you. Now you're going to talk about 55? Nobody cares who was drafted 55. So the only reason why people care and people want to act like this is such a bad thing is because it's LeBron's son. And it's like, you want to talk about haters. It's the people who hate on LeBron, people who hate on the Lakers that are trying to make this a big deal. Be like, oh, they gave the spot to Bronny James when there's other players who deserve a spot. Name them. Name them. Who are these guys that deserve this spot? Who deserve to be the 55th pick? Name them. Who was drafted 55 last year or the year before, the year before? Nobody knows and nobody cares.
Draft 56 or 54.
Who exactly? Who was drafted before him and after him? Nobody knows. Nobody remembers. Nobody cares. Right? If those players end up being good, then years down the line, it's like, oh, wow, this guy was actually drafted 54, whatever. Like what people say about Jokic, right? Jokic was like, oh, he was actually drafted in the second round or whatever number he was drafted. But when he was drafted at the time, who cared? Nobody, right?
Yeah.
So people are making a big deal out of this. But to your point, Emmanuel, in terms of where my question came from, okay, let me say as a disclaimer, I have LeBron to me, he's the GOAT, right? To me, it's not maybe the best player of all time. To me, there's no maybe. We're going into year 22, and ESPN just ranked him as like the 7th best player in the league right now. Year 22. He's going to be 40 in December. We've never seen such greatness for such a sustained period. We've never seen that before. So to me, just based on sustained excellence, legacy, all that, he's the greatest, right? But he's doing some things over the last couple of years that it's like, I don't know about this guy. Like, what is he doing? And to me, what he did this past summer, he had a great summer with Team USA. They won the gold, whatever. But the way that he was latching on to this Kendrick Lamar, not like us, Drake is supposed to be your boy, right? That's what he said. That's what he said. He said his favorite rapper, old school, is Jay-Z, and current generation, he said it was Drake. These are his words, right? Drake's supposed to be your guy. But yet you're singing and dancing and you can't get enough of this song that's calling your guy a pedophile. I don't understand that. So to me, that's stabbing Drake in the back. Obviously I'm partial to Drake because of we're all Canadian. We're from Toronto. You know what I mean? Like, we're Raptors fans. Drake is affiliated with the Raptors. So I'm partial to Drake for that reason. And to me, I just don't see if you say somebody's your friend and your friend is getting insulted in a song that's calling him a pedophile, how are you singing and dancing and you can't get enough of that song? To me, it doesn't make sense.
I'll tell you how you sing and dance to that song.
Huh?
I'll tell you how you sing and dance to that song. Where does Bron play? L.A. So where is he getting his money? L.A. You know what? I'm going to dance to every Kendrick song because that's what's paying my check. That's what's paying my bills.
It's not from L.A. Kendrick's not paying his checks.
But Bron has to represent L.A., right?
Big conscious rapper Kendrick Lamar, he's not paying nobody's checks.
He has to represent the city. If Bron wants to crip walk along the stage, I'm good with it because that's where he's getting his money. When he comes to Toronto, he could be buddy-buddy with Drake, but for now, it's business is business.
Oh, we can't be buddy-buddy. That's the thing. He can't be buddy-buddy anymore because now lines were crossed, right? That's why Drake unfollowed him on Instagram. You can't be buddy-buddy. You can't come back after that. Somebody calls you a pedophile. Somebody makes a song about you calling you a pedophile and you see me dancing. Do you see me dancing to what you think now when I see you, we're going to be buddy-buddy? Of course not.
Doesn't Drake have a tattoo of LeBron?
I think so.
And he unfollowed him on Instagram?
You unfollowed him.
But he has a tattoo on? Listen, I think this is a tough one, because I see both sides. But LeBron to me is like he's got a little bit of Donald Trump in him. I'll just say whatever, whatever I need to say. Like he just says stuff, the truth be told. He just says, fact check him. So him saying, oh, Drake's my favorite. Yeah, Drake's your favorite now. You know what I mean? Like at this time, like I remember there was a time where LeBron, when he was coming up, he said like, he didn't always say that his favorite, no, he said his favorite football team was the Cowboys. And then there was a time where he said it was Cleveland. And then he went back to the Cowboys once he was able to be more secure. Like he has a way of just kind of trying to play both sides, have it all, and that kind of thing. And I feel like he said that about Drake. Maybe he meant it at the time, but he's going with whoever's hot at the time. And Kendrick is not hot. He plays in LA, like Justin said. And I'm sure in LA, this song is bumping everywhere. So he's feeling the sense of the culture of where he's in. He's like, yeah. this is cool. Let me get involved in this too. This is what LeBron does. Yeah. And then he just got involved and said, yeah, I'm cool too. And he wanted to get on stage and dance and do all that kind of stuff. Like, I think I don't think you can take him seriously. I think he just says stuff and just does whatever he says, and he just wants to be always relevant. He always wants his name in the news to be mentioned, that kind of stuff.
And that's right. That's why, Bron, I'm sure you've seen who's the king of cap? Bron. Has he ever finished a book? Has anyone seen him ever finish a book? Or is he always on the same page? When he posts an IG video, does he ever know the words to a song? But he's going to say it's my favorite rapper. No, he doesn't. He just likes to, his wife drink some wine and have a good time. But you can't take him seriously. He's a great basketball player, but he's just having fun.
In the interest of time, we'll have to leave it there.
Yeah,
we'll have to agree to disagree. But last thing before we wrap up, tonight's Game 5, WNBA Finals. It ends tonight. It's been a great series. We need to predict. We only have 5 minutes to go, so we need to do this quickly. So we need to know who's winning tonight, who's going to be the WNBA Finals MVP. Emmanuel, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go with New York. I think the Liberty are going to win their very first WNBA championship. I think that Minnesota overall may be the better team if you talk about players, but I think New York has Brianna Stewart, they got Sabrina Ionescu, they got Jonquel Jones, and they're playing at home on a Sunday night. You know what I mean? Like Spike Lee and whatever celebrity, Alicia Keys wants to be there to be associated with a win. Like, they're going to be there. So I think they're going to win tonight. And who's going to be the MVP? I think the MVP is going to be between Stewie or Sabrina. Stewie's been the overall better player. So I'm going to say Stewie. I'd say Brianna Stewart's going to win MVP.
All right. Abby, any thoughts?
I'm going to go with, it's New York's at home, right?
Yep.
Going to go with New York, and Brianna Stewart is the MVP.
All right. So I'm also taking New York just because they're at home. If Game 5 was in Minnesota, I would take Minnesota. But it's in New York. I'm going with New York. I feel like these are evenly matched teams. But I'm going to say Sabrina wins Finals MVP. I'm going to say the reason why they are – well, I won't say the reason. But those shots, those two big threes that she hit in Game 3, I just feel like she's going to have another performance like that tonight. And I feel like that's going to catapult her, get her the Finals MVP. Liberty going to be the champions. Justin, I don't know if you were watching the series. I don't know if you have any predictions.
I'm going to go completely against the grain because I just like to do that. I think New York has a much better roster, in my opinion. But the way I saw Courtney Williams playing the last game, as she was saying that she's in her Birkin, I don't know. It's an unusual pick, but I think it's a good pick that's going to set the tone and push them over the top.
So you got Minnesota.
Yeah.
You got Minnesota Finals MVP. I'm assuming you're saying Courtney Williams for Finals MVP?
Yeah, why not? I'm just going to go there. Why not? Just a heroic game tonight, and she's going to shock the world.
You're going to shock the world. All right. So we got Minnesota for Justin, Courtney Williams Finals MVP. The rest of us, we each got New York. Abby Emanuel got Brianna Stewart, and I got Sabrina Ionescu as the Finals MVP. All right. Good show. Good show. Thanks for listening. Wrap it up.
Thanks for listening to the Boomshakalaka Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode. For Spotify listeners, please remember to subscribe and give us a review. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You can also find us on Twitter at the Boomshaka Pod. Thanks again for listening. Stay tuned for our next episode.